evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. The Energy Department zooms in on supply and pricing as the fuel problem lingers. But what about cracking down on oil companies accused of profiteering or profiting much from the crisis? We get updates from DOE Secretary Garin, who joins us in a bit.
And it's bombshell after bombshell from Ramil Madriaga, self-proclaimed former aide to Vice President Sara Duterte. One of his revelations, the office of the VP spent 125 million pesos in less than 24 hours.
And U.S. President Donald Trump explains an AI-generated image of him surrounded by divine light and clothed like Jesus, calling himself a doctor who simply make people better.
Tanggalin po natin yung excise sa diesel. Karamihan po ng nagbabayad based on consumption ay pinakamayaman. Tanggalin natin to. We had 50 billion pesos. So meron tayong 50 billion na hindi maibibigay na tulong sa mga vulnerable at middle income classes.
The government is not inclined to include diesel and gasoline in excise tax cuts for now. The Finance Department says the resulting revenue loss is not worth the limited relief at the pump. For now, reprieve is in the form of aid programs such as the 10 peso per liter discount for jeepneys and modern PUVs. News 5's Gerard De La Peña has tonight's big story.
A day after suspending excise taxes on LPG and kerosene, the palace has answered one looming question. Will diesel and gasoline follow suit? The answer for now, no. It wasn't President Marcos who announced this, but officials from the Department of Finance. The primary consideration, the government could incur up to 43.6 billion pesos in revenue losses over 3 months if it expands the suspension of excise taxes. DOF Undersecretary Carlo Adriano further explained that as per government data, 85% of diesel and 50% of gasoline consumers come from the richest of the country's population. The Development Budget Coordination Committee recommended to the President more targeted measures. That's to ensure the poor and vulnerable sectors will be the ones who will benefit from the excise tax cuts.
Pinakamalaking nagbabayad ng tax nito ay yung pinakamayaman. So kung tanggalin natin to, we had 50 billion pesos. So meron tayong 50 billion na hindi maibibigay na tulong sa mga vulnerable at middle income classes. Yun po ang implikasyon nito. Kaya po ang direction po natin ngayon for now is targeted. Unahin po natin na yung most vulnerable, but that doesn't mean that we will not provide for the others, particularly the middle income classes. Pinag-uusapan po yan sa uplift at pinag-uusapan po yung ating mga rekomendasyon at mga options paano po matulungan ng lahat, not just the vulnerable, the poorest of the poor, but also the middle income class.
Among the continuing government efforts to help the transport sector is the 10 peso per liter discount on fuel for public utility vehicles. The program kicked off on Tuesday, April 14 at more than 50 fuel stations in Metro Manila. Only PUVs, modern PUVs, and UV Express units are currently eligible.
Meron pong app ang ating mga gas attendant, tapos ilalagay lang po yung pangalan ng station code number, tapos yung plate number ng sasakyan. Yung app rin magsasabi kung ilan litro pwede niyang ikarga subject to discount.
A cap of 30 liters of fuel per day has been set for the discount. This translates to 300 pesos in savings for drivers.
Importante sir kasi malaki masyadong mapupunta sa amin yung 10 pesos kada litro kasi yung 6 liters to 7 liters yung magagamit namin sa isang ikot na biyahe papuntang Cubao.
Meron din naman sigurong epekto sa ano namin pero hindi ko masyadong maramdaman.
Parang kulang pa rin po?
Kulang po. So sa 10 litro na lang tayo, magkano lang yun? Sa 10 piso. 100 pesos lang ang nabawas sa akin.
On Wednesday, April 15, the government will also roll out its service contracting program. This will be implemented in select routes in Metro Manila and other urban areas to ensure uninterrupted transport services for commuters and added income for drivers. PUVs will be paid for trips made during off-peak hours. For the EDSA busway, the government will pay operators and drivers 100 pesos per kilometer. Modern jeepneys and UV Express units will be paid 40 pesos per kilometer, while traditional jeepneys will get 30 pesos per kilometer. Operators and drivers must run their PUV units at least 5 days a week and payouts are capped at 100 kilometers per unit.
Siguro mga ilang routes pa lang yan. Siguro mga, if I'm not mistaken, 40 plus routes nationwide, not only in NCR. So as soon as the transport operators are ready, mag-online registration lang po yan, then we will roll them out one by one.
Transport Group Pasang Mazda is one of the first to apply for the program.
Ito yung malaking tulong sa aming hanay, sa aking pag-aaral. And at the same time, pati ang ating mga commuters ay mapuproteksyonan.
As the government continues to provide help during this oil crisis, its energy arm also continues to ensure the country's fuel supply keeps coming. Energy Secretary Shawn Garin reported the country's current inventory at 50 days. LPG stands at 36 days, kerosene at 105 days, diesel is at 49 days, while gasoline is at 54 days. Garin noted that domestic supply remains subject to developments in the Strait of Hormuz and availability of fuel in other oil-producing countries.
Yesterday, we confirmed an order together with PNOC and our oil companies na nangangailangan. And we have made an order, additional order yesterday morning. And I think we will reach about 50 days by today also on average.
The Philippine National Police, for its part, is also cracking down on illegal profiteering and hoarding of fuel products. The PNP continues to pursue a case against those behind the illegal petroleum trade discovered in Navotas last week. It is also looking at possible connections between this group and other illegal petroleum sellers nabbed recently. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, We Are One News.
Now, there's a lot to unpack with the Department of Energy on this continuing oil crisis, and joining us tonight for discussion is DOE Secretary Shawn Garin. Welcome back to the Big Story, Secretary, and thank you for your time.
Yes.
All right, I hope the connection is good, but let's go first to a review of the oil deregulation law that you are, in fact, open to.
Yes, the oil deregulation law is actually a law that privatizes the oil industry in the country. Oil meaning the importation, the storage, as well as hanggang umabot ka sa gasoline station. Privatization means that it's private-driven, walang government na involved, and the prices are determined by the companies themselves, letting competition determine the price and the behavior of the industry. Right. So I think at before kasi parang okay lang naman for us, but now that there's like triple na yung presyo ng diesel, for example, is it still the law or the regulation that you want the private to determine what the price should be, or how they manage their business? And I think it's that these times that we realize that there has to be more power as far as government is concerned, with regards to the supply as well as the price of fuel.
Well, that was driven also by the system before, when we had the oil price stabilization fund, when government was really, propping up or subsidizing oil prices. And it was a very political time that there was so much division. But should we now put a cap on the profits of oil companies? They are making quite huge profits. So what would you like to see?
In power, kasi says power is also privatized, but the price is not is regulated, and it works in that sense. I'm not sure if that should apply to oil as well, but it could be. It could be an option that Congress can explore, or there will be some form of regulation as to price, or even at the very least the profit intake of the companies. Kasi we have to consider that now it's a public service. It's like it's a commodity. It's a public service that is imbued by public interest. But another option is either we regulate the price fully like ERC does with power, but another option is give government powers when some circumstances are present. Like, for example, like today, like these days, there was a sharp increase within 1 month na more than 100% or 200% yung price jump niya so far, or in times of shortage, for example. So there could be a combination of that, Ces.
And are you looking at government entering or getting some ownership in, for instance, Petron? Because it's been discussed that the Maharlika Fund is open to this.
I'm not sure. I mean, Petron is doing good service pa naman, ano? I mean, in
Well, the owner
market.
said he was open to government buying into
Yeah,
Petron.
because it's a reaction to so many queries and inquiries and interviews as well about that. Right? I mean, I guess they're open to open for government to take over, but I don't think there was ever a time when government offered to buy Petron in that sense. Now,
But
if you
is
buy
that
it,
a sensible idea?
tell me, would government run it better than RSA?
Not
That's what
fully
he said,
owned,
eh?
not fully owned, but have a stake.
Correct. It could be as well. I mean, we can expand. We expand it because we could have a bigger or more refineries in the country. But I think the government, in one sense, can have a stake in a way that to ensure the reserves. No? Maybe there could be a joint venture in making sure that we have more inventory stockpiling. No?
Are you, okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Are you comfortable with the 50-day supply that we have?
The 50-day is a good number, I would say, because it's not like 50 days and then we run out. No, I think people have to look at it as more of like the lead time to order. Because it takes, if you order from South Korea, for example, it takes about 1 to 2 weeks for delivery. Same goes for Japan, China, and the rest that are our neighboring suppliers. But if you order from the US, for example, or South America, it will take 30 to 45 days. So this is the time that we need to replenish what we consume. So 50 days yan, physically there's also a limitation kasi 60 days lang naman yung capacity of the whole country to for storage, no? Including the facilities of our private companies.
All right. We consume about, is that correct, 450 to 490 thousand barrels of oil a day. Has that gone down because of the price?
I think says if it's 1 million barrels, it's about 5 days. So more or less that would be 200,000 barrels now. Is the consumption going down because of the price? Yes. We've noticed the withdrawals and the reports of the companies on average about 20 to 25% decrease since the increase in price.
Now, let's go to the assurance from Iran given to the Foreign Affairs Department that we could, if if we have a tanker of oil passing through the Strait of Hormuz, it will be given safe passage. However, the blockade of the U.S. may not allow this. What's the status of that agreement with Iran?
Well, it still stays. I think we're friendly to both countries now. The agreement with Iran was safe passage of the vessels, Philippine vessels, Philippine goods that could be on another country's vessel, or Filipino workers on the ships. So far, I think there's more about Filipinos being on the vessels as well as other goods that are not oil, that are in foreign vessels now bound for Philippines. So there has been, I think, this morning lang we had a meeting with Uplift Committee, and I think there was a report to that effect. Na they're still talking about the passage of people or the goods. what's the effect of Trump's blockade of the blockade? I'm not sure yet if there has been update on that yet. So we'll report to you once there's an impact to our orders. But so far, because he says technically we don't have pending orders yet from the Middle East or through Strait of Hormuz for oil.
So we can, okay, pahabol, I know Pawi and Shawn are itching to ask their questions, but so ito lang ang week na makaka-enjoy tayo ng rollback or meron pa next week?
Depends on Trump, you know. It says medyo nag-celebrate na ako. Akala ko makakapahinga na ako na, there's a ceasefire and the prices went down, right? So, but because it reacts, diba? Pag anong mangyari, nagre-react yung market, it can go up or down or stay the same. So, ceasefire was declared, prices went down. So now we're reflecting it in our pump prices. But now, he tweeted something else and market reacted. So if he keeps on tweeting this week, maybe it will go up and babawiin yung rollback natin. But it is possible. I can't assure you. I'm not going to sugarcoat that that it stays like this rollback now. No, we're not sure yet until finally they move out of there and find long-lasting peace among themselves.
Well, Secretary, of course, we know that we have been trying to diversify our oil sources, and we have been able to, through Petron, get some supply from Russia, but that waiver from the U.S. sanction expired no April 11. U.S. ambassador, or our ambassador to the U.S., Romualdez, said it's likely that the U.S. will give in. I know you've been working on deals also from the U.S., to get from the U.S. and from Canada. How are those looking? Are they developing, and how soon could they materialize?
With the Russian agreement, we already asked the FA to extend it or have a new window again for Russian oil, because Petron purchased their crude oil from Russia, and then that assured us about their supply until June. No? So there are advantages also. So we've asked for that, and then this morning I think the response was they're quite positive about or hopeful about the request, and so Ambassador Romualdez is working on that. And on the other countries, for example, a couple of days ago I had a meeting with the Colombian ambassador. I'm meeting the Canadian as well, and Argentine. The Argentinian, my team met with them. So we're diversifying. Tama yung word na yun kasi we put all our eggs in one basket, which is Middle East. Kahit sabihin na natin we don't buy directly, but indirectly we're like 90% dependent on the Middle East. So the impact or the vulnerability, vulnerable tayo of the Philippines to what happens in the Middle East became very apparent. So dapat talaga we diversify our sources, and not only which country it comes from, but also diversify in terms of like what type of fuel do we use now here in the Philippines. I think those are long-term or mid-term plans that we should have in place already.
Yeah, instead of a knee-jerk reaction. But I'd like to circle back to one of the things Ces asked you earlier. There has been a suggestion to let the PCC check in on how much profits, and Senator Gatchalian saying open the books of these oil companies. But I'm thinking with the industry heavily or completely deregulated, actually, couldn't this actually be a source for them to like file a case against the government if that they were be compelled to do that?
Right. If it's normal times, they can. But the president issued the executive order as energy emergency, and it gave the government more teeth, more powers than usual or than normal times to impose more on the oil company. So medyo nakakatulong yung executive order, and now PCC, actually even without the emergency powers, we've already been in contact with PCC on investigating if there's any anti-competitive behavior among oil companies, and they're on it, no? They've been gathering documents from us, and I think they're also summoning some documents from the oil companies. But they're already handling the case on that.
Because last week, Secretary, Sunny Africa from the Ibon Foundation told us that they found that oil companies profited by about 47 billion pesos in March alone. Have you validated these reports already? And can the DOE look into this?
No, because there are laws that has allowed them to make money out of oil. Now, the question is, did they take advantage of the crisis to have to earn more money? No, meaning profiteering.
If I may
Earning money-
interrupt,
Yes.
Secretary, the basis kasi is biglang, that week where they had still inventory at old prices, and suddenly there was that shock of the price
Correct.
increase. So that figure of 47 billion is based on that.
Okay, so that's what I was getting at, Ces.
Yeah.
It's allowed under the law as long as it's within the limits na they use, which is being practiced by all oil companies, most oil companies in the world, yung replacement cost accounting. Now, so that kind of accounting has never been questioned or na prohibited, no?
Yeah.
So it's not about the accounting, I think, that we're questioning. I think it's, did they make more than they should have in that sense. I'm not going to, I'm not defending the oil companies, nor am I accusing them right now, because we're in the middle of the war, and pero it is a good question. And I think the proper venue is PCC. Kasi sila yung makakakita niyan. They have the expertise to see if there was indeed profiteering or collusion among them.
And Secretary, maybe just as a final question, earlier this week, we heard Senator Amy Marcos criticizing the department for its two-day on-site work scheme. I know you've already explained that you want to lead an example of in terms of energy consumption and energy efficiency, but will you be revisiting this two-day on-site work policy?
We will, as advised by Senate. I think there was a question of our delivery of work while doing work from home, and although I'm confident of my team because they have delivered, we've kept power rates at the increases at the minimum. We've procured enough fuel. We maintain the supply. The price is something that we cannot control, but we have enforcement teams also. Everybody's working hard. In fact, we have new rules on contingency plans and fuel resiliency plans already. So marami namang I think we've done well. I'm quite confident with my team on their maturity and professionalism. And work from home does not make them truants. It's exactly why it's called that. You work from home because we wanted for us to say when this started. I'm sorry if there's a time limit to this. I wanted to emphasize that every liter of diesel counts because there is a threat, external threat to our supply and stability of our economy, and we wanted to show people that you can really deliver work even if you work from home and save electricity and diesel.
Well, minsan kasi naghahanap ng performative, I don't know, moves.
Yeah.
Hindi ba? And if you're not seen, parang ergo
Right.
you're not performing. But anyway,
I've been on media more than I'm so seen
but
now.
sanay na siguro kayo na, you've become somehow, sorry to say, the face of this crisis, and binabanatan kayo ng mga jeepney drivers, wala daw silang audience sa inyo, etc., etc. How are you coping with that?
No, I'm used to that. I mean, I've been a politician for a long time, and I do understand. The concerns are legitimate, But also we are also working hard to address that. Yeah, so I mean, we listen, but it doesn't distract us also from what we need to deliver for this country.
Quickly, because you said every drop of diesel counts or gasoline, the shift to EV, you mentioned that in your Senate, in a Senate hearing. Now, people want to use e-bikes, pero the laws are, not allowing them on main thoroughfares. Will you be an advocate of allowing this?
That's where we're going. I mean, electric vehicles, whether it's two-wheel or
bikes,
four-wheel.
bikes.
Yeah, I think it's how we should be going now. Kasi, like we're only dependent on power. Only 3% is diesel. So that means we could use renewable, in fact, for these electric vehicles. So I think that's where we're going. In fact, I like the idea of some countries na they have a gradual phase out of importation of combustible. Kasi yun talaga yung, how do you say that? We're so dependent on imported fuel that we don't have, and whatever happens from the source without our own fault, affected tayo, maakyat lang yung presyo. So I think we need to rethink and parang, how did we call that in COVID? New normal.
Okay.
Na?
So the commuters will be happy to know, who are pushing for this will be happy to know they have an advocate in you. So thank you so much, Secretary Garin, for coming to the Big Story. Sugat-sugat na yung mukha nyo sa, sa pagbabatikos. But as expected, Vice President Sara Duterte's alleged bagman, Ramil Madriaga, attended the House Justice Committee's hearing on the impeachment complaints and delivered bombshell testimonies against his supposed former boss. He insisted his relationship with the Vice President dated to as far back as former President Rodrigo Duterte. Mobile journalist Amy Atienza with the report.
On the same day, I posted the screenshot of our video conference on my Facebook account with the caption just telling her I cannot vote intelligently without her name on the ballot. Neither can go out and vote wisely unless the name Inday Sara Duterte Garfield appears as a candidate in the 2022 presidential race. 47.
Would you like to say something about why you are crying on this part of the affidavit?
Hindi naman, malungkot lang po.
Malungkot. Okay, please proceed.
Self-proclaimed bagman Ramil Madriaga became emotional as he read part of his testimony against his supposed former boss, Vice President Sara Duterte. The VP has since denied knowing him, but Madriaga was still summoned by the House Justice Committee for cash deliveries, allegedly on behalf of Duterte. Sara is facing impeachment complaints over accusations of funds misuse, a kill plot against President Marcos and his family, and other high crimes.
Sa kanya pong complaint affidavit laban sa inyo in the perjury case na hindi niya po kayo kilala.
Hindi po totoo yun, Madam Chair. Marami pong makakapagpapatunay na mga opisyal sa gobyerno tsaka mga kasama namin sa isip na mayroon kaming mga naging pagpupulong. Lalo na nung eleksyon, na halos kasama ko siya 24 hours. Kilala po niya ako at kilala ko rin po siya.
Madriaga claimed to have been introduced first to the VP's father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, by the late National Security Advisor and Congressman Roy Logoles. When Digong became president, he became part of the NSC. Madriaga said he later became a direct employee of Mr. Duterte, earning 100 to 150,000 pesos a month. In 2018, Ramil went on. He crossed paths with Sara, who at the time was eyeing re-election as mayor of Davao City.
During this meeting, PRRD introduced me to Sara and told me, Ram, ikaw na bahala kay Inday. She gave me strict instructions that all conversations should be done as much as possible by call and minimize text messages.
Madriaga added the VP was a favored child.
PRRD wanted VP Sara in politics instead of Paulo Duterte Pulong and Sebastian Duterte Baste, who he characterized as baliw and bading, respectively.
Madriaga claimed he was even offered 25 million pesos by Digong to buy a motorcycle that Sara can use, then ordered to form a group that would support Sara's candidacy for president in the 2022 elections. Madriaga showed so-called proof of the group's travels across the country, including virtual meetings with Digong's eldest daughter. In one photograph, the now VP had a painting in her background, which Madriaga said he personally gifted Mr. Duterte. Then this video.
Ito po yung pagdating ni VP Sara sa Matnog. Nandun po ko sa loob ng sasakyan ko sa Land Cruiser. Tapos hinahanap niya po ako dahil wala po ako eh.
Sino po yung Sir Ram na tinatawag niya?
Ako po, Your Honor. Ako po, Madam Chair.
Kayo po.
Happy birthday, Sir Ram. I wish you good health and happiness.
But the plan to make Sara president did not come to pass. Now President Bongbong Marcos and his sister Senator Amy were able to convince Duterte to run for VP instead. When Sara won, Madriaga said he was even invited to attend her inauguration in Davao City. Then Madriaga formed the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group, or VP-SPG. He recommended Colonel Dennis Nolasco and Colonel Raymond Dante La Chica, his alleged companions, when delivering huge sums of cash from the vice president. Among the drop-off points, he said, were San Pablo, a so-called night strip, or the Nomu Basho at the office of the Ombudsman. Madriagas continued. He was invited to the DepEd Central Office, where he found La Chica and DepEd Special Disbursing Officer Gina Acosta with 4 duffel bags, each containing 30 to 35 million pesos. Madriaga said he was asked to get a share from it. He took 1 million pesos, but where did the rest supposedly go?
Previously, and upon direct instruction sa PRRD, Sara, I've also delivered money to Ombudsman Samuel Martires Rotoni Ryan, which I usually place inside an open trunk of a designated car. A few years later, I read from several media reports that 125 million OBP confidential funds in 2022 were reportedly utilized in just 11 days. This is wrong because I personally disposed the money in less than 24 hours.
Kapatid Amy Atienza, we are One News.
Now, meantime, the National Bureau of Investigation has elevated to the Justice Department one case linked to confidential funds used by the Office of the Vice President. Results of the NBI's forensic examinations showed same handwritings in acknowledgement receipts and across multiple documents yet. During impeachment proceedings today, or what the House Justice Committee prefers to call clarificatory hearing, the NBI presented at least 36 receipts, groups of which were found to bear signatures and dates believed to have come from only one person.
I think the Secretary was part of the articles of impeachment.
So, meron na po bang resolution dun sa case na yon?
It's already been resolved at the level of the NBI. The case was filed already to the Department of Justice, and we're just waiting for the resolution.
Meantime, the House Justice Committee has summoned former Senator Sonny Trillanes for the Duterte impeachment proceedings. Let's get an update on this and more from panel member Bicol Saro Party List Representative Terry Ridon. Good evening, Congressman. Welcome to the Big Story.
Magandang gabi. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita.
Before we go to former Senator Trillanes, on Madriaga, the main witness today, how credible do you find him?
Well, we have to stick po doon sa mga testimonies po niya that might be related to confidential funds misuse. No? So, yung pong mga binabanggit niya, ito pong delivery under 24 hours of the confidential funds, Makikita ho natin dyan yung link niya, for example, with Mr. Kilala, no, and Mr. Monsaya. Kasi yan po yung mga information na magtatagpo po yung mga binabanggit niya Vice President Duterte at niya Mr. Madriaga. Kasi ang sabi po ni Vice President Sara, ang tanging lang hong link ni Mr. Madriaga ay kay Mr. Kilala. So, yan po yung particular na detalye na lumabas ngayon. And relevant po si Mr. Kilala kasi nga nakikita natin dito na co-signatories po sila sa isang certificate of attendance kay Attorney Reynald Monsayak, which is one of the deputies of the Vice President, given at the supposed comedy bar, no, na sinasabi rin po na isa sa mga drop-off points ng pong mga duffel bags containing confidential funds. No? So I think yan po yung isa sa mga very important leads and pieces of information na mabigat pong tinitignan ng committee ngayon.
So kapani-paniwala po siya sa tingin ninyo?
Tingin ko as far as that particular aspect is concerned, dahil yan, we would want to be able to confine ourselves to matters that are intrinsic to the impeachment complaints only. No? So, if on those particular details, tingin ko po meron pong grain of truth, no? Doon sa kanya pong binabanggit. And syempre, we would want to get a little bit more information on these particular circumstances as well.
On the other hand, of course, the defense described him as the weakest link.
Sure. Kaya ang sinasabi ko namin previously, no, if they really believe that Mr. Mariaga was in fact the weakest link, the remedy for that is for the Vice President to actually confront Mr. Mariaga in the committee and to destroy his credibility there. Hindi ba? But she did not opt for it. But baka ho, when this reaches the Senate, that is where the Vice President will attempt to discredit the credibility of Mr. Mariaga.
He has waived his bank secrecy rights. So, have you found any direct links between, the amounts of money he's talking about as checked against his bank deposits or accounts?
Well, wala pa, no? Kasi syempre ngayon pa lang ho nagpirma ng waiver. But I think yung pong waiver will have to be submitted to the AMLAC, no? Para they will have to look whether or not meron pong mga transaction reports na suspicious and covered dito po sa mga accounts po na ito. Kasi very important ho na talaga hong makita natin, firstly, whether these accounts actually exist, and secondly, if these accounts exist, kung meron po bang totoong inflow and outflow po ng malalaking mga pera. At if these are actual checks, kanino po nanggaling yung mga cheque po na ito.
Pero yung kanyang testimony, marami rin pong walang kinalaman sa impeachment proceedings. Marami siyang dinagdag na, like about supposedly shortening the term of the president, etc. What was that about? And why was that allowed?
Well, it was allowed because it was part of the supplemental affidavit, hindi ba? So, and again, most of the questions naman po were basically, as far as my questions were concerned, were basically confined to matters relevant to the impeachment complaints, to the impeachable offenses, specifically on confidential funds misuse. And I think moving forward, yun po talaga dapat ang focus, specific to Mr. Mariaga's testimony, what is the nexus between his supplemental affidavit and testimony to the supposed misuse of confidential funds.
The chair was also careful to stop some of your colleagues, from pursuing a line of questioning. What's the explanation for this?
Well, we wanted to limit ourselves to the objective of the hearing, which is basically just to determine probable cause. No? So, ibig sabihin, if there are questions that are extrinsic, extraneous to, for example, an affidavit that had been submitted, or it is a question that basically tests the credibility and is irrelevant to the submitted document, hindi mo pinapalagpas ni Chair Luis Trupuito.
So this is also in consideration of some criticism that this may be going into Senate's territory once an impeachment trial happens if ever there is one?
Well, kasama ho yun doon sa mga pag-iingat din po na gusto ho nating gawin. Kasi nga, the objective of the hearing is basically to make clarificatory questions and secondly, to determine probable cause. So, ibig sabihin, anything beyond the determination of probable cause, we should actually just leave it to a future Senate proceeding.
Congressman Ridon, I was wondering about that iPhone that Madriaga keeps referring to. Supposedly, kinuha siya nung inarrest siya, so it's in the custody of, I don't know, the BJMP. Have we located this iPhone? And also wondering why you didn't just ask for his passbooks if he was indeed the dummy of the Dutertes, and he should have a record if the bank accounts were under his name.
Well, yung po iPhones hadn't been subpoenaed yet, no? So we have to decide whether this particular device should be subpoenaed and subjected to an examination. Pero again, kung hindi naman ho siya kailangan to determine probable cause, tingin ko hindi naman ho yan. We don't have to insist on it in a future hearing. Yung passbooks po kasi syempre that presupposes that these accounts actually exist, no, at this point, and actual passbooks exist, no. So tignan pa ho natin kung ano pa ho yung mga pwedeng further information na makuha, lalo't higit the waiver has already been assigned, no. So I will leave it to the committee secretariat to decide how to proceed, whether they have to relate with AMLAC or they have to relate with the banks na mentioned po in the affidavit. We will leave it to the committee to the committee secretariat to decide.
And Congressman, earlier when Mr. Madriaga was recounting how he delivered these large sums of money, isa po sa nabanggit niya ay yung Office of the Ombudsman. Is the committee going to look into former Ombudsman Samuel Martires if he is involved in any way in this misuse of confidential funds?
At tignan pa ho natin, no? Kasi syempre that is an additional information na binabanggit po ni Mr. Madriaga. But also very important po kasi for us to be able to focus on already corroborative evidence, no? So, for example, speaking for myself, no, I don't want to focus on matters na only Mr. Madriaga can actually give truth on, no? So, for example, I would rather focus on the matters that relate to Mr. Kilala and the circumstances surrounding it. Kasi nga, like what I had previously stated, it was that the Vice President also mentioned na the buck stops with Mr. Kilala and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop on her. So we would like to get further details on their relationship and their relationship with Mr. Munsaya. Kasi if that gets established, only then can we actually go further towards the Vice President with actual corroborative evidence.
Now, what about the husband of the Vice President who has filed a case in court to block the subpoena of BIR documents, their conjugal documents?
Well, I don't think a TRO has been issued as of today, but we are confident that as soon as we get to the next hearing, we will be able to present it, and we will be able to make comparisons between incomes of the Vice President and Mr. Carpio, and compare it against the net worth of the Vice President in 2024, which stood at 88 million.
And maybe just as a final question, Congressman, what can we expect in the next hearing of the Justice Committee? That's on April 22. And I believe former Senator Sonny Trillanes will be appearing as he was subpoenaed. Give us a preview of what are some of the questions that you will be asking of him.
Well, the next hearing will be more of discussions relating to unexplained wealth and SALN issues, no? And whether or not it rises to the level of a betrayal of public trust. So we will discuss, again, like the SALN of the Vice President, the ITRs of the Vice President, Manscarpio, and their firms, as stated in the 2024 SALN. If the AMLAC is ready with the transaction records of their bank accounts, then there will be a discussion on that, with the focus to basically establish whether or not the Vice President has, in fact, unexplained wealth or explainable wealth. No? And it will be compared against her 88 million SALN in 2024.
We thank you for talking to us, Congressman Terry Ridon, member of the House Justice Committee.
And we are pausing for another breather, but right after that, U.S. President Donald Trump is not apologizing for criticizing the Pope. He also explains the image that depicts him as Jesus. The big story will be right back. Stay tuned.
The big story is back with more stories on the Gulf War and its impact. U.S. President Donald Trump is warning elimination for Iranian ships coming near the American blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump acknowledged Iran still has some fast attack ships and said these vessels would be met with quick and brutal force. The U.S. went on with the blockade after the first round of Middle East talks fell through. Still on Trump, he said the AI-generated image he posted online was meant to show him as a doctor and not as a religious figure. The photo, which was later deleted from Truth Social, showed a Jesus-like American leader. Trump is also not apologizing to Pope Leo XIV, whom he called weak and terrible.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor, making people better.
He now says you owe Pope Leo an apology. Will you apologize?
No, I don't, because Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran. Pope Leo would not be happy with the end result. You have hundreds of millions of people dead, and it's not going to happen. So I can't. I think he's very weak on crime and other things. So I'm not. I mean, he went public. I'm just responding to Pope Leo. There's nothing to apologize for. He's wrong. And the other thing is he didn't like what we're doing with respect to Iran, but Iran is wants to be a nuclear nation so they can exterminate the world. Not going to happen.
Well, back here at home, the Department of Energy has reverted to a 4-day work week policy. It's allowing employees to render at least 40 hours per week under flexible work arrangements. The adjustment comes after senators criticized Secretary Shawn Garin for the agency's previous 2-day worksite policy. And the new NAIA Infra Corporation says select international flights may be affected by the ongoing airspace restrictions still because of the Middle East conflict. Passengers are now advised to check in advance for delays, rerouting, or flight cancellations.
And here are the other headlines on this Tuesday. Former President Rodrigo Duterte has waived his right to personally attend a hearing before the International Criminal Court on April 22. Duterte said he will be represented by his legal counsel instead. During the hearing, the ICC Appeals Chamber will rule on Duterte's challenge to its jurisdiction. The decision will be delivered in open court at 11 a.m. or 5 p.m. Manila time. Recall that the former president also skipped his confirmation of charges hearing in February, maintaining that he does not recognize the court's authority. Duterte is facing crimes against humanity charges over his administration's drug war. And over at the House of Representatives, Cavite 4th District Representative Kiko Barzaga is back at work after a 60-day suspension. He attended the hearing on the impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte today, just 1 day after surrendering to police over 8 counts of cyber libel. Barzaga was released after posting bail of around 400,000 pesos, which he said came from fundraising.
Well, I miss my job and I'm glad to be back, especially ngayon, makapafile na namin yung... I have plenty of bills that I'd like to file and I have plenty of tax policies that I'd like to change. Para sa mga hindi nakatulong sa fundraising namin po, madami pa namang kaso and hopefully tulungan niyo ako makapag-piyansa next time.
Meantime, the government has extended the deadline for the filing of the 2025 annual income tax returns from April 15 to May 15, 2026. The Bureau of Internal Revenue said filings and payments may be done through its electronic platforms or authorized agent banks. President Bongbong Marcos said the extension was granted to ease the burden on Filipino taxpayers amid rising prices of fuel and basic goods. And the Social Welfare Department continued its special payout for PUJ and TODA drivers. In Marikina City, beneficiaries underwent verification of licenses and registration before claiming their 5,000 peso assistance. They also got free meals and drinks while waiting in line. However, some drivers were unable to claim aid due to listing and documentation issues. In Malabon, thousands of TODA members also lined up at the sports complex. The DSWD's payout will extend for a few more days, while local officials work to update and consolidate lists for those who remain unpaid.
Namin sana ayusin naman nila sa Itil Parby at saka sa DSWD. Huwag sila magpasapasahan kasi gaya na pa kami madaling araw eh.
May junior po yan, nalinaw naman po. Tapos na-receive po ng opisina. Kaso, anong nangyari po, pagdating po sa listahan nila, walang junior. Yung member ko po is, PWD yan, ang hirap ilabas ng bahay, hirap na hirap kami. Ginawa namin ang paraan para na mapunta rito, para makapag-payout. Kaso ganito mangyayari, babalikin na naman kami. Diba? Yun lang yung concern namin na sama ng loob namin, nahihirapan kami.
Tinanggal yung one list, sir?
Tinanggal po yung one list.
And before we go, the countdown to the Tour of Luzon 2026 is on. And as D-Day approaches, we take a look at the story behind one of its most experienced riders. Mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho has this report.
As the Tour of Luzon 2026 draws near, preparations are in full swing. And for some riders, the race is more than just competition. It's a story of perseverance. For veteran cyclist Junrey Navarra, the journey has been anything but easy. A native of Tupi, South Cotabato, he has built a reputation as one of the country's strongest climbers. Navarra began his career in mountain biking before making the difficult transition to road racing.
Medyo yung una po, naglipat ako ng road bike. Ang hirap po talaga. Kasi hindi ako sanay mag-drop, naghahawak sa drop.
He pushed through, eventually turning professional in 2013 and earning opportunities to compete internationally, including a stint in Italy.
Dalawang taon din po ako sa Italy, nag-try po din ng yung parang continental po na developmental po ng team nila doon. Hirap ng laro at saka yung klima ng lamig, yun po yung hirap po eh.
At one point, setbacks and financial challenges nearly forced him to quit the sport. But in 2018, a return to competition, despite a difficult experience in Vietnam, rekindled his passion.
Pagdating ko ng Vietnam, na-hold up pa ako. Tapos hold up, ginawa lahat yung pera ko, bumalik ako ulit sa airport.
Nearly 2 decades into his career, Navarra remains a key piece for his team heading into this year's tour, despite a tougher field.
Challenge po ngayon yung laro kasi madami po kami kalaban. Daming foreigner na. Hindi lang po Asia yung kalaban, may European po.
Team Standard Insurance is currently training across different terrains, riding up to 5 hours a day.
Kasi pag naiwan po ng first day, malayo na po sa oras po yung... Kasi oras po yung labanan eh. Basta gawin ko lang po yung base ko.
With a longer and more demanding 14-stage route this year, dubbed Heritage in Motion, the Tour of Luzon 2026 will run from April 29 to May 13 and is expected to push every rider to their limits. Kapatid Denise Valdez-Sancho, we are One News.
Wow, what a challenging...
Weren't you saying last year that you would wait outside your house and give drinks to
because
those
Baguio
joining?
would be the last stop.
Yeah.
And we
Burnham
would
Park.
line up in Burnham Park. And I was so excited to see Pepe. No, it was like parang the host, you know, because it was live. It was a big thing.
Big event.
Yeah, it was a big event for us. Yeah.
Well, I hope, it's so hot too, so maybe we should revive that.
We
Wherever
should,
it passes by.
And besides, it shows us how we can be mobile without gasoline.
Yeah, it's very timely.
Yeah, very timely.
It's true. Oh, I wonder who will win this. Sana
Yeah.
manalo tayo because we're used to the heat.
Yeah. Pero last
Advantage
year,
na
hindi
natin
tayo
yun.
nanalo.
Yeah. Korean won, pero second place Pinoy. So hopefully this year,
Yeah.
we can dominate that. And welcome back to Shawn
Thank
Yeah.
you.
from Canada.
I know.
Mas mura ang gasolina sa Canada.
Yes.
Hindi ka nagdala.
Oo nga, no?
Bawal baka daw. Bawal isakay sa aeroplano.
Pero
Flammables.
talaga, I
mas
guess
mura.
because they
They have their own sources.
their
So
own
maybe we can get from there. I don't know lang kung yung transport cost, how it will affect the price.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But Secretary Garin mentioned, though it takes 35 days or something.
Yeah.
Hindi na
But at
bale.
least the Pacific
may
Ocean
supply.
is peaceful.
Oo nga.
Oo, kahit malaki siya at
Tama,
malayo.
tama.
All right, and on that note, that's it for the Big Story this Tuesday. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.
Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.